Welcome to a reboxing and organization video for Obsession, the second edition, including the Upstairs Downstairs expansion and the Wessex expansion. So in this video I'm going to work through packing up the various boxes with all of the bits that you'll need to set up to get the game to the table. First of all, there's a few things that are in Upstairs Downstairs that you will not need if you have the second edition of the game. This Builder's Market extension for the game board you will not need as it's built into the second edition game board, but if you have the first edition you'll need that. Also, there are Servants' Hall and Barn tiles that came with Upstairs Downstairs. You can see that little U there. These are exactly the same as the versions of these rooms that are in the second edition of the game, so you will not need these unless you have the first edition. And then there are these two tokens with the Kayenta Games logo on them. One of them is just the logo on both sides, which you can keep if you like. This one is needed for gameplay, so we'll set this aside and I'll get back to that later. So we're going to start with small boxes that come for each house. We'll use House York as an example. First thing you're going to put into the box are the family cards for that house. There will be 5, except for the one house that has an extra card, family as their extra. You will have the prestige counters that go up 1 through 8, the max token and the reminder token. So I'm going to put these down here. You will have the starting the starting tiles, one for each of the 5 categories that are denoted by the manor house in the upper right hand corner, and each family gets one of each of those 5. You will also have 2 markers with your family crest on them. These are from the Upstairs Downstairs expansion. The back side of this is used for, one of these is used for the solo game, so if you're planning to solo a lot, you may not want to put these in the house things, but I'm at least initially going to play 2 players, so I'm going to put these into the family boxes, and those are for the milestones if you're playing with those. Then each family is also going to get one of each of the starting servants as their starting group, and a reputation tracker marker like that. Then each family will also get their starting bonus if it comes in physical form. So for House York, they get an extra footman. And that is what I am going to put into the house boxes. House Cavendish starts with extra reputation, so they're not going to have any physical thing for their starting power in their box. Ponsonby is going to start with 300 pounds, so that can start in his box. House Asquith is going to start with an extra family member, the Dowager Countess of Asquith. Wessex is going to have their choice of starting with a breakfast room or a tennis court, and these 2 tiles that have this sort of smaller manor house in the upper right hand corner are the tiles that go into the Wessex box, and they get to choose one of these to start with at the beginning of the game. And finally, the Howard family, which comes with the Upstairs Downstairs expansion, gets to start with a cook. The 2 large purple boxes that come with the game, I am going to use the Prestige box for things that are needed for game setup as I'm planning to play the game initially, and then the Fleur-de-lis box, the guest box, will be for alternative components or components that I might not incorporate right now, but that I want to keep on hand for later use. There are a few components that are an either-or situation, player's choice. These are the monument tiles, the original tiles, of which you'll see there's a service one in here, which there's not in this smaller stack, that have higher victory point total or values on each of the monuments, and some people wanted to play with a more balanced or the monuments not being so powerful, and so these were included in Upstairs Downstairs, as you can see from the little U, and as an alternate way to play for those people who don't want to play with the super powerful monuments. I'm going to set these aside in my maybe someday box like right now, but I'm happy to play with the game as originally designed for now. Another option presented in the Upstairs Downstairs expansion was the replacement of the victory point and courtship preferences cards, the tiny little cards that came in the base game, with a slightly larger card size in Upstairs Downstairs. A lot of people objected to these tiny little cards, but I happen to agree with Dan that they're super cute. So I'm going to keep these in my setup box and move these into my optional box. Finally, there are two sets of objective decks, one from the base game and one from Upstairs Downstairs. The Upstairs Downstairs one isn't marked with a little U, but you'll see that it has Upstairs Downstairs Servants referenced in the graphics. Because I'm going to play the base game first before I incorporate the Upstairs Downstairs Servants, I have left this in shrink for now, and I'll put it in my maybe later box and then put these in my setup box. But you'll want to use one deck or the other depending on whether or not you're playing with the Upstairs Downstairs Servants. So for the casual guest deck, we're going to add the 35 cards from the base game, the 6 cards from the Wessex expansion, and the 15 cards from the Upstairs Downstairs expansion, and those will all get shuffled together to make the casual guest deck. The prestige guest deck will be the 25 cards from the base game. You'll note that it says there's 26, and there is a 26th, but I will leave that for you to discover yourself. There is 5 cards from Wessex, and there are 16 cards from Upstairs Downstairs, and all of those can be shuffled together into the prestige guest deck. You will also have starter guests that are told by this little crown symbol in the upper left-hand corner. There are 15 from the base game, there are 5 from Wessex, and there are 2 additional ones in Upstairs Downstairs, and these will all get shuffled together to make your starting guest deck. And in addition to that, we have, of course, the Fairchilds that you will need for setup. I'm going to take my casual guests and my prestige guests and just put them face to face so that I can easily separate this pile again, and I'll put that into the box that way, and then I'm going to put the Fairchilds on top of my starter guests in a separate pile in my starting materials box. The other cards you will need are the player aids. There are 4 complete sets of the 5 different player aids in the game, plus 2 additional of the more recent additions, the Milestones one and the Upstairs Downstairs Servants one. But since there are not enough to put a full set in each family box, I'm leaving these in the setup so they can be given to the players as needed. There are the Tile Icon Victory Point 1, there's round track icons and servant icons, the Upstairs Downstairs Servants, which is a 2-sided one. There's the special actions and the milestone symbols one. And on the back side of this are both passing flowcharts, depending on whether or not you're using the variant, or this may have to do with milestones. I have to read the rulebook for a higher servants option at this point. Also into setup, I'm going to add my objective card deck. I'm going to add my monuments because some of these will need to be seeded based on player count. I will add my courtship cards and victory point cards. They're all in the same stack there. I will also add, of course, the first player marker and the round track marker. And then I made a baggie of the servants that I'm going to need for a 2-player game to put into the hiring hall. There are additional servants that I'm putting in my backup box, but depending on how you're most frequently going to play, make adjustments as necessary. And then finally, I'm using the cloth bag from the Upstairs Downstairs expansion to store my money. So here's how I'm loading components into the box. I've got my servants on top of my guest deck and my money nestled here on top of the Fairchilds. So in my things that I'm setting aside for now, in addition to the lower victory point monuments, the objective cards with the Upstairs Downstairs Servants, and the larger VP/courtship cards, I will also add the solo play stuff, so the solitaire cards and the 20-sided die and the 9-10 chits. And then there's one of these Kayenta Games logos that we talked about that has the 1920 on the other side. The rest of this series of numbers that will be needed for solo play I have in my family boxes. They have family crests on the back side, so those will need to be pulled from the family boxes if you need them for solo play. I have milestone cards. I have the other basic servants that are needed for higher player counts in the recruitable servants hall. I have my upstairs downstairs servants in this nice gate box that fits them nicely. And then I have some additional tiles. I have set aside the 5-point tiles that were added to make the game work for a higher player count, but since I'm currently playing 2-player, I'm going to set those aside for now. And then I'm also going to set aside the housekeeper's room and the renovated kitchen, which only work if you're playing with the head housemaid and the cook that are needed to activate these. And then finally, I have the promo guests, so any of these guests that have the little P under their victory point symbol. These are pretty overpowered, Dan said, and you probably want to throw maybe 1 or 2 into a game, but not the whole set of them. So I'm going to set these aside for now and maybe cycle through adding them to spice things up as time goes by. So the final thing I'm going to add to my extras box are the 18 backer promo tiles that came as a separate expansion. So if you have these, they will also fit in here, but packing this box is pretty precise. I'm going to put my larger cards, that's the solitaire cards, the milestone cards, and the promo guests along that side. And then I'm going to put the smaller cards along the other side. And I'm going to put the level 5, the lower monument victory point card tiles, the level 5 tiles, and the upstairs downstairs servants tiles along one side. And then I'm going to fill up this other side, as many as fit, with promo tiles, the backer designed promo tiles. And then just a few will fit here in between. So that's all of the tiles. And then I can put my my servants on this side. I can put the solo stuff kind of tucked in down there, and the rest of my basic servants along that side, and then everything fits into this box. So packing the main box, we have the 2 large purple boxes. We're going to have all of our family boxes. The 5 estate improvements boards can go neatly there as a divider. Then you're going to have all of the family boards that are going to sit on one side. And then I'm going to put the large obsession bag with all of the tiles in it along the other side. And this will take some arranging and figuring out how to make sort of an even surface area there, which I'm not going to mess with right now. But in order to get the box lid to close, it's doable, but you got to mess with that a little bit. Then you're going to have score pads, one from the base game, one from upstairs downstairs, and you're going to have your various rule books, etc. are going to sit on top. But first you got the boards, so the round tracker boards. There is the solo play and cooperative side, the standard play side, and then on the back of each of them is the extended play track. These are the same if you have the 2nd edition of the game. If you have the 1st edition, the extended play side in upstairs downstairs is a replacement for that round track in the base game. And then we have the main board. Then on top of that is going to go all of your rule books and the lid. And as I said, you're going to have to mess with that bag of tiles to make it actually go all the way down. Mine currently isn't, but I'm going to mess with that in a moment and make it so. Hope this was helpful, and have a good time.